Welcome everyone to another episode of Designing for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is a series where we go over concepts and ideas for characters who can make it into the newest Smash game. For this episode, we're again reaching back into the Super Nintendo era for another character who's one of my all-time favorites, the bubble-blowing, juice-box drinking, and guitar-playing Dixie Kong. In this video, we'll start by taking a look at the history of Dixie and what makes her such a popular character amongst Nintendo fans. After that, we'll go over how she can be implemented for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, including her potential moveset, stages, music, and other things. Lastly, we'll round out the video by talking about her realistic chances of making Ultimate's roster. Before we dive into those topics, I want to give a few shoutouts for people who helped with this video. First up is my good buddy Johnny Jinx, who captured all of the footage from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze that's featured in this video. I've linked both his YouTube channel and Twitter profile in the description. I also want to give a huge thanks to my buddy Claymore, who helped me finally solve the audio echoing issue. He's a speedrunner for Final Fantasy X, and he's currently ranked number 10 in the leaderboards for the PC Any Percentage category. His Twitch profile will be linked in the description as well. Come by and watch one of his speedruns sometime. Dixie first appeared as Diddy's sidekick in Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, which was released in 1995 and was developed by Rare as the sequel to the previous year's groundbreaking hit, Donkey Kong Country. She immediately stood out from other contemporary characters since she was one of the first female heroes in a significant platforming game and because of her distinct playstyle. Dixie has a signature ability to float in the air while slowly descending thanks to her ponytail, and she has access to this move at any moment. Given the exceptional difficulty curve found in DKC2, Dixie often becomes the character of choice for newer and mid-level players, which has resulted in her being a popular character in the DK series. She also uses her hair to interact with the world, like hanging from hooks and picking up barrels and enemies with her ponytail. Rare knew they had a well-received character and gave her the starring role a year later in Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. She was also present in Donkey Kong Land 2 and 3, which were unique counterpart games to the Super Nintendo trilogy for the original Game Boy. This would mark the last of her playable appearances in the mainline series until 2014's Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, though she was playable in a large amount of spin-off games in both the DK and Mario series. And hey, she's even made a couple of appearances already in Smash. She was a trophy in Melee, Brawl, and Smash 4. Dixie, like other DK characters found in Smash Ultimate, isn't a character who has a lot of backstory. That's to be expected though, since she hails from a platforming-heavy franchise that doesn't put too much emphasis on its story. For the most part, she appears in games that see her and the rest of the Kong family taking down King K. Rool, or some other villain who's the current flavor of the week terrorizing DK Island. Oh, and she's also Diddy's girlfriend because, of course, that's a thing. Dixie does have a personality that's been subtly developed throughout the years, and it's important for any Smash game to capture that. Dixie focuses more on fun things and shows interests in other things outside of adventuring, such as her fondness for all things bubblegum and her love of guitars. She tends to be a little bit childish, but unlike Diddy, it's a little bit more restrained and subdued instead of being mischievous. Smash is always a great way to solidify a character's personality, and it could really help give Dixie a boost. Dixie's character feel for Smash Ultimate is surprisingly easy to come up with, and that's because she can be easily compared and contrasted with Diddy. Assuming she's not an echo fighter of Diddy, we can borrow some of her characteristics from Donkey Kong Country 2 to define her Smash details while using Diddy as a base model. Let's start with her size and character model since it's simple. Match it with Diddy's. In both DKC2 and Tropical Freeze, there is virtually no difference between the size of the two characters, so there's no point in changing it here. In DKC2, Dixie Kong is slower than Diddy by roughly 10% when she's on the ground, and is also a bit slower in the air. Both characters have the same jump height, roll speed, and strength, so it makes it really easy to imagine how Dixie would feel in Smash Ultimate. Diddy does climb ropes significantly faster in DKC2, but that doesn't affect Smash much with the exception of the few stages where ladders are present. These differences mean that at a high level, Dixie should act as a slower Diddy with less combo potential to match her less aggressive playstyle from DKC2. While that would be a straight nerf, Dixie should also be compensated with a much better recovery since that is her strength in that game. Her weight, jump height, air and fall speeds, etc. should all be close to Diddy's stats in Smash, but there is some room to make slight adjustments so they don't feel too similar. Luckily, those stats would work well for Dixie's potential moveset in Smash, and that's where things start to get awesome because there are so many choices. For this video, I'm going to touch on 3 potential movesets that Dixie could have in Ultimate. The first one is if she was a Diddy Echo, the second one is what I'm going to call the Animal Buddies moveset, and the third moveset is what I'm going to call the traditional moveset. Before we take a look at these movesets individually, I want to point out 3 things that will apply to all of them. First is that they will all feature the same final smash since Dixie does not have enough from her source material to come up with 3 different variations. Second, all of these movesets assume that Dixie's grab will incorporate her hair, since that's how she exclusively grabs objects and barrels in the DKC series. The image of Dixie picking up Ridley or Bowser with just her ponytail is way too good to pass on. Third, Dixie should have the unique property that allows her to glide with her hair when the jump button is being held, since it's essential to her character. The only moveset that the floating wouldn't apply to is the Diddy Echo moveset, since that would be too much of a change to retain the Echo status. That's a perfect way to jump into the Diddy Echo kit since it's the simplest to make for the developers and easiest to imagine for players. For this moveset, Dixie will have the same neutral special, side special, and down special as Diddy, which is the Peanut Pop Gun, Monkey Flip, and Banana Peel respectively. Peanut Pop Gun is the only move that needs to be recontextualized for Dixie, but that's an easy task since Dixie can use her Gumball Pop Gun that she gained in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. The main change that would need to happen for her special moves as an Echo Fighter would be her up special. Diddy's up special is Rocket Barrel Boost, but that wouldn't make much sense for Dixie since her helicopter spin is what she's known for. Plus, she's never really used anything similar to Diddy's rocket barrels in any of her appearances. It goes without saying, but her up special in this moveset should become Helicopter Spin, and it should work like it did in Tropical Freeze. Dixie gains a little bit of height as her hair twirls around. Unlike Tropical Freeze's iteration of this move, it should gain its gliding properties from DKC2 and allow Dixie to float horizontally while constantly descending, and this should be the only move in this concept where Dixie can float with her hair. This change does present a problem, however. In Brawl and Smash 4's competitive scenes, Diddy has historically been one of the top 3 to 5 characters in both games, with his only significant weakness being his recovery. Because Dixie's new up special gives her an exceptional recovery, tacking that onto Diddy's existing moveset might make the character a little bit too good for the competitive scene. The easiest solution to this problem is to say, don't give her that up special, but that makes her feel less authentic to her game appearances. There are always ways to balance her out in this scenario, but it is a valid concern if she does become a straight Echo with an improved recovery. Dixie would also need a new final smash for the same reasons as her new up special. Unfortunately, she doesn't really have a go-to super move in any of her appearances, so her final smash will have to be something new that's made specifically for Smash Ultimate. Preferably, it's something that references the DK series as a whole. I think a good way to do that is to make her final smash something I'm calling Barrel Blast, and it could work similar to other trapping final smashes that are already in the game. When used near an opponent, he or she would get trapped in a barrel and then fire around a series of barrels placed around the stage while taking damage. The final barrel would contain all of the knockback, and it can KO off the size of the blast zone at moderate and high percentages. What would make this final smash unique is that other characters could actually hit the character trapped in the barrels while being blasted to increase the damage before the final barrel knocks them off stage. Dixie's standard moves for the Echo Fighter kit would essentially be identical to Diddy's with one exception, her dash attack. Every playable Kong in the classic Country trilogy has a unique rolling attack, and Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong already have theirs in Smash, so Dixie should get her roll attack from the series as well. On the opposite side of the moveset spectrum is where we can find Dixie's Animal Buddy kit. Before we get to the moveset itself, it's important to understand the context of Animal Buddies in the Donkey Kong Country series in terms of gameplay. That way we can better understand how these guys can be implemented into Smash. Animal Buddies in the DKC franchise are helper companions that change up the gameplay since each one has their own unique feel, properties, and attacks. There are several Animal Buddies throughout the series that provide the Kong family with help in levels and with help finding secrets. They're usually found in crates with an image of the specific animal or in barrels that transform any Kong into that Animal Buddy. Donkey Kong as a franchise has a decent level of representation in Smash Bros., but animal buddies are rarely referenced despite how important they are to the core gameplay design of the Donkey Kong Country series. This makes it a perfect opportunity to use them for Dixie Kong to make her feel very different from the other DK reps, but also to give her awesome references for DK fans. In this moveset, Dixie's neutral special should be Rambi the Rhino. Rambi is the quintessential animal buddy that has made the most appearances in the DKC series, so let's see how he behaves there and how it can be translated for Smash Ultimate. When summoned from a crate, the Kong family can ride on his back and barrel through enemies and walls that contain hidden caves. In DKC2 and DKC3, Rambi gained a charge move that allows him to bulldoze through anything in his path at a high speed. For Smash Ultimate, the implementation of this move can be similar to Wario's motorcycle, but with a bit of a twist. Pressing the B button should summon Rambi, and after Dixie climbs on top of him, he should run a short distance in the direction Dixie was facing when she started the move. Rambi should have a hitbox on the front of him near his horn, and it should deal decent percentage of knockback when it comes into contact with an opponent. Holding the B button to charge this move should make Rambi run a little bit faster to incorporate his charge attack from the classic trilogy, but it should not affect the knockback or damage of the move. When Rambi is finished with his run, he disappears and Dixie is returned to a standing position. The slow startup on this move would make it a bit telegraphed, but that would help balance it out for the percentage of knockback it would incur. Dixie's side special should be Squitter the Spider. Squitter debuted in DKC2 as the freshest thing around with his stylish kicks, and his ability is shooting webs and making temporary platforms made of webs. These weaponized webs damage or kill enemies on contact, and they can be angled up or down. For Smash Ultimate, they can pretty much work the exact same way. Using Dixie's side special would cause her to jump on Squitter and fire a web to the side that she was facing. These webs should be able to be angled upwards or downwards. It should be a quick and relatively weak projectile that deals low percentage and knockback. A similar move to this is Ivysaur's Razor Leaf, since it can also be angled, but Squitter should not have the boomerang effect on his web. Despite the fact that Squitter can make platforms in DKC2 and DKC3, I don't think he should be able to do that in Smash. It would make the move unnecessarily complex. A projectile is always great to have, so it should only serve that function. Dixie's up special and recovery move is my personal favorite animal buddy, Squawks the Parrot. In DKC2 and 3, he can lift the Kongs up and fly through the air while shooting eggs. When Dixie initiates her up special in Smash Ultimate, Squawks should spawn and lift her up for a decent amount of vertical distance. While being held by Squawks, the Dixie player should be able to drift left and right. Duck Hunt's recovery, Duck Jump, is the perfect template for this move in terms of gameplay feel, though this move should have one other addition that Duck Hunt doesn't have. Pressing the B button during flight should fire a small egg, and it should be shot in an arc. The egg can damage opponents, but it should have very little knockback. I think Squawks should be limited to 1 or 2 eggs at max, and if it is 2, there should be a significant delay between the 2 shots. This way, the Dixie player can't spam it to get back on the stage safely. When Squawks reaches his max height, he should detach from Dixie and fly off screen, and the Dixie player should be able to use her hair glide to slowly descend and move side to side. While that does sound incredibly broken, remember that Peach in Smash essentially gets the same kind of recovery, but the order is reversed. She has to start with her horizontal movement and then can gain vertical distance with her up special, so reversing it, even though it might be a little bit better, should be okay. Rounding out this moveset as her down special would be Rattly the Rattlesnake. Rattly only makes a single appearance in the classic trilogy as one of the animal buddies found in DKC2, but he's a fun addition to the cast. He's known for his extreme jumping prowess and his ability to land on spiked enemies, so he essentially serves the purpose of being a super jump for the Kongs. In Smash, Dixie should be able to spawn Rattly, who then leaps in an arc in the direction Dixie was facing when initiating the move. Landing on opponents should cause mid-level knockback and damage, but landing this move on an aerial opponent should result in a powerful spike. Dixie should be able to jump off him at any time so it can be used off stage, though Rattly should have no hitbox if Dixie is currently not on his back to make it more committal. This down special would probably make it the most difficult move to use out of Dixie's kit, since the large arc telegraphs it and gives opponents plenty of time to defend themselves. Platforms would also get in the way since Rattly would have to contend with those, but not all moves can have super high utility, so this helps balance it out. And that takes us to the center of the moveset spectrum, the traditional moveset. The word traditional really has no official meaning here, it's just a term I'm using to describe a more realistic and realizable moveset that better fits the character design for Smash Bros. Starting us off would be Dixie's neutral special, Barrel Throw. Gonna be honest with you guys here, I have literally zero idea how there are two other Kongs in Smash Bros. And neither of them have the ability to throw a barrel as part of their moveset. Barrel throwing is practically in every single DK game in existence, and I can't believe that it hasn't been represented in Smash yet. Using this move should spawn a barrel in Dixie's hair, and she can throw it either to the side or in a small upwards arc, just like she can in the DKC series. The barrel should do mid-level percentage and knockback when they come into contact with an opponent. Dixie should also be able to jump while holding the barrel, and that way she can jump into opponents and hit them from underneath. But to balance this, opponents should also be able to break the barrel while she's holding it. On rare occasions, Dixie should have a low % chance to spawn the deadly TNT barrel, which should explode on contact and should do high percentage and knockback. Of course, Dixie players will need to be careful since they could be on the receiving end of it if the player hits the TNT barrel while she's holding it. For Dixie's side special, we're gonna go with a callback from her counterpart character Tiny from Donkey Kong 64. In this case, it should be the Feather Bow. Although it's never wielded by Dixie herself, it would be a fun throwback to that game and it still makes sense for her. The Feather Bow shoots out feathers that damage enemies in DK64, and it should work identically in Smash. It should be a quick but low damaging projectile that has flinching properties. This move will allow Dixie players to force their opponents to approach and tack on some extra long range damage. There's already a lot of different projectiles in Smash that this move can be compared to, such as Mega Man's Metal Blades or Falco's Lasers. One important thing with this move is that it should not be spammable. Dixie's up special for the traditional kit becomes Helicopter Spin, and it would be functionally identical to the same move described in the Diddy Echo moveset. Because of that, we don't really need to go over it in detail again, but as a high level reminder, Dixie is able to gain a short amount of vertical distance by twirling her hair, and then can glide by holding the B button and move horizontally. Lastly, Dixie's down special should be Ponytail Slam. This is actually a new move that Dixie gained in Tropical Freeze in the 2-player mode, and is similar to Donkey Kong's Hand Slap down special. Unlike Hand Slap, Dixie actually uses her hair to slap both sides of the ground one after another. This move looks hilarious in Tropical Freeze, so I would love to see some Dixie players using this move on Smash Bros. Characters as a decently strong melee attack. One thing that separates this move from DK's is that it should not be usable in the air. This is because Dixie uses her hair to glide and also uses her hair to initiate the slam, so it wouldn't make much sense if she could do both in the air. And that pretty much wraps it up with all of the potential movesets that Dixie could have in Ultimate pertaining to her specials, but that does mean she still needs a set of standard attacks to go along with them. Outside of the Diddy Echo moveset, since most of those moves would be similar to Diddy's, these attacks should mostly consist of pretty standard punches, kicks, and other body attacks. One thing that could be cool is if they use Dixie's hair to give her some ranged moves. I think there's a lot of potential for a unique moveset and character feel if there's a couple of moves that utilize her hair's range, since it'll make her a mix of a quicker close-up fighter with a few good poking and spacing tools. Shantae, anyone? There is one more thing we need to consider when rounding out Dixie's movesets, her taunts. Luckily, these are super easy to translate from her past games. Dixie's first taunt should be her rocking out and headbanging to a guitar, which is something that she does at the end of levels in DKC2. She also plays an air guitar in Tropical Freeze as her idle animation, but the one with the actual guitar is just so much more satisfying. Dixie's second taunt should be her blowing bubblegum and then having it pop, which is an homage to her idle animation in DKC2. Lastly, her third taunt should be her sitting down and drinking a juice box, which is also referencing a DKC2 idle animation. Dixie also has the ability to bring some wonderful stages and music into Smash Ultimate, and I think there would be a good chance that the DK series would get another stage if she got in. Jungle Hijinks from Smash 4 is one of the few stages not returning to Ultimate, and with the DK series getting more representation thanks to the already confirmed addition of King K. Rool, there is definitely a spot for another DK stage. There's a ton of different options here from pretty much every DK game that's not a jungle setting, so it's all personal preference. And because of that, there is no way I would pass up the opportunity to hype up a Brambles-themed stage. In DKC2, there is a set of Bramble-themed levels that are some of the most unique and challenging stages found in the adventure. These levels generally feature a sky backdrop where the Kongs are surrounded by dangerous thorns and vines to form a very interesting and memorable level trope. DKC2's most famous piece of music, Sticker Bush Symphony, plays on these stages, and the combined package has made these levels a lovingly enduring part of the DK franchise for many fans. For a Brambles themed stage, there's a couple of different options the developers have when they're designing it, but ultimately the stage needs to have wooden platforms, thorny vines, and barrels to feel authentic to DKC2. I think a good way to set up a stage like this is to have a large center wooden platform with thorns running underneath it. These thorns could extend beyond that platform and then raise upwards to hold a couple of smaller wooden platforms. This approach makes the bottom area between the platforms dangerous for fighters since they would take damage and knockback from the spiky vines, but it also makes it a straightforward stage where the hazards aren't too intrusive. One cool mechanic that this stage could have is that the theme and color could change every time it's played. In DKC2, there are 3 variations of the Bramble levels, one with a clear sky, one with a dusky sky, and one with a night sky. It would be a really nice touch if all of these variations were in Smash. But then there is the music that Dixie's inclusion could grace Smash Ultimate with. DK fans already know this, but the DK series, especially DKC2 and DKC Tropical Freeze, has 2 of the greatest soundtracks you can find in any video game ever. This is all thanks to composer David Wise, who in my opinion is the absolute alpha and omega in the industry and is unrivaled by anyone else. Plus, he was nice enough to personally answer some fan mail I wrote him when I was 16ish after bugging Rare for his email address for weeks, so that's kind of a special memory I have of him and his music. Unless Sakurai and the developers are going to go full Castlevania mode and approach it by including 30 or 40 songs like they did for Simon and Richter, it's sad that there might only be a handful of great tracks that could follow Dixie into the game. But for the sake of time, I've picked 8 or 9 tracks that would be superb additions to Smash Ultimate. There's about 4 minutes of music upcoming in the video, and each song has a 20-second sample, so please feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to listen to them. But be warned, it is DKC music. Your ears will be missing the friendly touch of every wonderful note that could bring you eternal happiness. There's a couple more things to touch on with Dixie's Smash implementation. First up is her boxing ring title, which is probably something that will need to be made up for this game since Dixie doesn't really have any sort of official title in any of her past appearances. I love the idea of referencing her love of gum and guitars, so it could be something playful like the bubblegum guitarist or the headbanging guitarist. I don't think Nintendo would go that route and instead would have something that references her abilities, such as maybe the high-flying hair twirler or floats with her hair. Dixie's alternate costumes would most likely end up being simple color swaps, and that's because she's never been seen in any other gear in the DK series. Here are some sample color swaps that Dixie could use. The one color to take note of is her purple color, since that is a direct callback to her color palette for the 2-player mode in DKC3. I do think there's some room here for Nintendo to put in Tiny Kong as a costume option from DK64, and that's because both Tiny and Dixie are very similar characters in the DK universe. Dixie's intro trailer would probably take some inspiration from King K. Rool's intro trailer, and would see her with the Kongs. Since K. Rool has already been revealed, it would be interesting if they reenacted DKC2's final boss fight, where Donkey Kong is tied up and is watching Dixie and Diddy fight him. Diddy could be fighting him solo until Dixie floats in and lands a hit on K. Rool, or something similar like that. The tagline for her character trailer could be something like Dixie floats into battle. Unfortunately, Dixie's role in a possible single player or adventure mode would probably be more of the same. She'll probably be in a jungle setting with the other Kongs, and they'll probably interact with King K. Rool at some point. Just because it's predictable doesn't make it any less awesome, and this would be a great way to include her and K. Rool in a story mode. They could pair her with literally any character afterwards, similarly to how Diddy teamed up with Fox in Brawl's Subspace Emissary, but that decision would be totally arbitrary. One odd pairing that I think they could make work is giving Dixie an opportunity to team up with the Inkling. It sounds odd at first, but I think Splatoon's pop culture universe meshes really well with Dixie's guitar interests and general laid-back appearance. Plus, this would make it an all-newcomer and all-female team. And with all that, how likely is it that Dixie Kong will make an appearance in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? Truth be told, that's a really hard question to answer, and it's hard to place a value on her chances. Personally, I'm shocked that Dixie hasn't been a fighter since Brawl due to the historical popularity of the DKC series and the lack of representation the series has had in Super Smash Bros. As a whole. But my opinion is also biased since she is one of my favorite characters of all time. An interesting note about Dixie is that there are files that exist on Brawl's disc that hint towards her being a scrapped fighter for that game. This previous consideration is worth noting, but obviously we know it didn't make much of a difference for Smash 4. Many fans expect her to be an echo of Diddy, and I do think that is her best chance of making the cut, but I personally hope that Nintendo doesn't go that route because it wastes so much potential as we've talked about in the moveset section of this video. The DK series got a huge boost in terms of representation when the fan favorite King K. Rool was announced, and while it feels right to have Dixie to round out the DK reps in Ultimate, it's possible that Nintendo and Sakurai think that K. Rool is already enough. Dixie generally does good when Smash polls are being conducted online, but there are always a few characters that usually poll higher. Since we know the ballot was influential with Sakurai for roster choices, this is both a positive and negative for her chances, because while she's consistent, she's not at the tippy top of the list. Ultimately, I would say her chances of being Diddy's Echo fighter makes her a pretty likely fighter choice. As a unique fighter, I think her chances drop a bit, but it could still happen. Dixie is also a great candidate to be one of the first few DLC characters if Nintendo goes that route. It's really a mixed bag with Dixie, but I'm hoping that either in the base game or through DLC, she'll make the cut as a unique fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Thank you guys so much for watching. It would be awesome if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, but it would be even better if you could take a few moments to share this video with your friends, so that way we can help the community grow. If you guys want to continue being awesome and going above and beyond, please consider subscribing to me on Twitter at super_mallow. I'll include a link to it in the description. This designing for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate series is now 2 videos deep, and because of the wonderful feedback that I've gotten from you guys from the Geno video, I'm actually already planning a 3rd one in this series. It was one of the coolest feelings to open up the page and see people requesting videos for the character that they want most in Smash. And while I already had this script and the other scripts started, I would love to maybe take a stab at those sometime in the future. So please let me know what you would want to see in the comments. Once again, you guys are awesome fans. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it if you really like it, and we'll see you guys next time for another episode of Designing for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You guys are still here? Well, for staying to the very end, I can give you guys a little bit of a hint to the next video. We are going to do another episode of Designing for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, like I promised before. But in the meantime, I'm going to do a quicker video that is something that is a throwback to something I've put on YouTube on a different channel before, just now with much better quality. We're going to mix it up for the next video upload, so I hope you guys will like it and stay tuned.